This ain't the He-Man Woman Haters Club is what I was last talking about. But yeah, just basically they're the era of where was I even at, child? Oh yeah, we were talking about the backlash against, there's all this backlash that's against the woke culture. And when it, you can tell I'm trying to remember where I was even at. But anyway, healthy masculinity is coming back. Moral of the story there. Healthy masculinity is coming back. That is something that Gen Z desperately wants. And, you know, this idea that Gen Z doesn't want masculinity, you have some of your people on TikTok who try to say that, but it's like your actions reflect otherwise. It's very clear that people want that leadership back and, you know, that energy to be brought back. And overall, people just really want to see structure and tradition to come back as a whole and as a collective, which brings me to my next point. Gen Z is finding God. We talked about this a little bit just a few weeks ago. This because Axios did a nice study on it. Believe it or not, Gen Z is going back to church. Oh yes, oh yes. I feel like, and actually, I want to play this clip that really breaks some of it down.
Interesting. I think something's happening right now that I am really excited about, where I think you're seeing a lot of Gen Z Christians in particular. Or Gen Z influencers coming to faith. I think we're seeing this begin to happen. And I think in some ways that secular humanist project of life without God that many millennials bought into, and I think some Gen Xers bought into, is beginning to dissipate. I think the Gen Z language is wrapped around the idea of, I get to determine my identity. I am the locus. I am the starting point for who I am. And from my individual experience, I interpret the rest of the world, where the invitation, I think, of the kingdom is to say, actually, you are created in the image of God, and what is true about you starts from outside of you, not inside of you.
Ain't that a word? I wish I remembered the name of that YouTube channel because that was a good video. But, you know, I wanted to play that to kick that off because I feel like a lot of people in Gen Z, again, just lacked purpose. And it's because woke culture tried so hard to cosplay as a substitute and it failed miserably. We talk often about how people worship woke culture and woke ideology, which explains why people are such crash outs on the internet. Whether that's why it's always like the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. It's BLM, it's Free Palestine, it's gender ideology, it's all these different things that people are so ridiculously passionate about, even though they're barely even educated about it. And it's like when you put the truth in front of them and you like debunk the things that they're trying to say that are so obviously wrong and so obviously fraudulent, they don't take that well because it has become their religion. It is the reason that people get up in the morning. That's why you see these people are so weird. They're so weird because when you make these progressive ideas the entirety of your purpose, you're always chasing something because there's no substance there. There's no fulfillment there. It's kind of like eating a bag of chips. Like, this is a weird example, but it's like you eat a bag of Cheetos. You continuously eat the Cheetos because they are engineered to have absent carbs. They are engineered to be as unhealthy as they possibly can be, extremely high calories, but they're empty calories, empty carbs, and you feel no nutrients. If you have a big bag of Cheetos, it's not just because of taste that you are able to eat that entire bag, but you get full off a salad so quickly. It's because there's actually nutrients in the salad. And the salad here is religion, it's tradition, it's values that actually have purpose. That's why it's like you are fulfilled much faster and much more sustainably in a much more healthy manner that gives you energy when you are going to somewhere like church or going to the Word of God. But when you are going over and eating the bag of chips and drinking the pickle juice, then you end up just tasting like pickle juice. You end up just feeling like pickle juice and sweating it out. You end up being hungry forever. You end up with a big back. You end up unhealthy. You end up having acne. You end up ugly on the inside and the outside. And that is what happens when you go over to this manufactured fast food religion of woke ideology. And that's why they have big backs too. But that's another conversation. But you know, that woke culture, it just cannot fill the spiritual void. And you know, in 2024, Washington Examiner had an article where they compare the progressive ideology as a new religion, especially for young women who have been leaving the church and seeking that deeper sense of purpose. And unfortunately, shouldn't say that. But you know, I meant it. You know, there's a lot of people who are going over to Islam because here's the thing is people always do such an aggressive pivot. This is no shade at anybody who's Islamic. I'm sorry. You can throw shade at my culture and my religion all you want, but we're all we have open discussions here, respectfully. But the reason that I feel like there's a lot of Caucasians that are going over to Islam, particularly, especially like over in Europe, is because they are so adverse to the woke progressive religion that they wanted to go. This is serious. We are not Islamophobic here. I have Islamic friends.
What is that, like a cheetah print on the one on the very left? That's a customized edition we have there.
Not her trying to be a cheetah-licious Sharia law girl. Hey, cheetah-licious Sharia law. Okay, I can't. These divas, shout out to the Islamic divas out there, the Caucasian Islamic divas who don't show their ankles. Shout out to y'all. But I feel like the reason that a lot of women, especially, I guess, have moved over to liking Sharia law is because at least it has structure and purpose and some type of substance there. So it's like I can respect it in that element of that is how desperate people are for structure, that they are going over to Islam. And obviously not all of Islam is as radical. Like don't be sensitive, because I can already feel the people crashing out and be like, oh, you're so Islamophobic. It's like, no, I ain't scared of y'all. But but that being said, we talked about this again a couple weeks ago, but I just want to like spin the block on it because it is so powerful and is so important. This resurgence of religion among Gen Z men, especially. There's this Axios article that came out that I think you guys should go and check out. But there's these studies showing the growing interest. It talks about how the decades-long decline, and I mean decades-long decline, where every single decade, every single generation has been going to church less and less. And you would think that Gen Z would be a part of that trend, especially with the narratives and the tropes that are around about our generation. But really, it's the opposite. We're actually driving the religion revival right now. Each decade or with each group becoming less Christians, with each group becoming less Christians. You had Americans born in the 1970s that are 63% Christian. You had 1980 babies that were 53% Christians. 90s babies were 46, but there was no real decline from the 90s babies to the 2000s babies. They're also at this 46%. And even though it hasn't necessarily drastically gone up yet, and that's largely because women are still dropping out of the church, there is at least a plateau. And with masculinity coming back and with men leading their households and their families again, I think with men leading, I think it's only a matter of time that women are going to start going back to church too. You have Gen Zers, especially again, the Gen Z men that are actually statistically more likely to attend a weekly religious service than millennials and then even younger Gen Xers, which is crazy to think about. So I think women are going to come back on board soon because you see a lot of women, even in the influencer space, that are now choosing healthier lifestyles or choosing to again, find God again. They're choosing to have this real sense of purpose again. I saw this video, and I'm pretty sure I went to a party with this girl when I very first moved to LA, which is crazy to see the whole full circle of it. But I want to play this video from this girl this video actually made me tear up a little bit the first time I saw it. I thought it was beautiful. Beautiful. So beautiful. So if you are just listening and not watching, so basically what it shows is how she went from the LA influencer lifestyle, going to the party, seeing people do crazy, wild stuff. And like, yeah, it's fun. It's very, very fun. But the fun doesn't last forever. It's not fulfilling. And this girl, she left the LA life, went and got married, found God, and now she's so much happier. She's seeing the world. She's living a healthier lifestyle. And I think that is what Gen Z is desperately craving, this healthier turnaround. People are becoming healthier spiritually, physically, emotionally, relationally. Is that how you would say it? However you would say it. You know what I'm trying to say. I feel like in every capacity, people are seeking health and spirituality, and we love to see that, which leads me to the fourth thing that young people desperately want. We want to make America hot and healthy again. Okay, so there's so many elements of Gen Z that has shifted in culture, and one thing that a lot of people were shocked by is the fact that Gen Z is consuming significantly less alcohol. Gen Z is not really a heavy drinking culture for a number of reasons. I mean, it's because club culture has died. It's because people are going to church more. It's because people just don't see the purpose anymore. People can't afford it, and people want to be healthy. Like, there's so many factors that go into it. On January 1st, 2025, Time actually reported that Gen Z consumes significantly less alcohol than previous generations, with 20% of Gen Z adults age for this purpose from 21 to 26 identifying as non-drinkers, compared to 12% of millennials at the same age. And it also shows that 52% of Gen Z, and Gallup actually said this, that 52% of Gen Z drink occasionally, which is down from the 71% of millennials. And again, this is driven by health consciousness. It's driven by social media's influence on sober lifestyles. Like, sober has become like a trend, which love that. Like, love the healthiness of all of that. And, you know, the economic pressure, honestly, too. I guess there's a little bit of benefit to people being broke because they've realized, like, maybe we can't afford that bottle of Henny this week. But people are also just realizing straight up that it's making their backs big. Okay, because I know, because even this weekend, I'm going out of town this weekend, and I was like, you know what? I'm actually shortened my trip because I'm like, I don't want to drink because I don't want my back to be big, and I don't want the temptations of the city I'm going to. I ain't telling y'all yet because y'all can't be all up in my business trying to find me at the airport, chat. But I don't want my back to be big. The era of people glamorizing obesity is even over, because even, you know, the era of health and wellness is hot again when even somebody like Lizzo is hating how big her back used to be. She just posted this video recently. So Lizzo has lost a bunch of weight. This is the singer and rapper Lizzo writing "by B word" on her old album cover where her back was bigger. And it's just so funny how someone like Lizzo would be so quick to call somebody fat phobic. But if we're gonna be so real, I actually didn't see that part of the video in the beginning. And you know what? I'm not even going to come for her, because anybody laughing like that, I don't want beef with. And Lizzo already has me blocked on Twitter. Sorry, girl, I was calling your back big one day. But look, it worked, because you ran to the kitchen and you ate less. And that's what we wanted to see at the end of the day. You did not need to eat a family size bag of Oreos every single time, because that's why you were the size of a small family. But now she has lost that weight. And it's just so funny and ironic to me that nobody hates fat people more than people who used to be fat. And what it has to say is that people are rejecting finally this body positivity movement. The body positivity movement, you know, initially was about self-acceptance. And I think the body positivity can be a great thing when we're talking about like a disability, for example. When I think I had a post that went viral years ago where I was like, if we're going to talk about body positivity, talk about the military veteran that lost their leg. Talk about the firefighter who, you know, face got burned and has severe burn damage on their face because they were saving lives. Or even talk about people who were born a certain way and they rock with it. They embrace it. There's actually a girl I grew up with in my hometown who, she hates me though, because she's super progressive. But hi, Jess, we're talking about you. She's actually an influencer that, even though she hates me, I really respect her, because she has an entire blog about traveling the world as a disabled woman. And she's a dancer, she's models, she does all this cool stuff. And I think that that's the pinnacle of body positivity. I think what she does is really badass. And again, even though she hates me, she did not see me at the 10-year reunion. But that being said, that's what body positivity should look like, in my opinion. I don't think body positivity is being positive about living an unhealthy lifestyle. I don't think body positivity should be about making the conscious decision to eat like a bear every single day. Like, we don't have to be positive about the fact that you can't push the plate away. And Gen Z is really sick of that. We're sick of the forced inclusivity, not just about being big backed, but about just people being weird looking. Like, the downplaying on fitness and basic beauty standards, it needs to end. Okay? A moment for me that was like the Pearl Harbor for me emotionally, because I literally stopped wearing Calvin Klein after this, was, first of all, let's look at OG Calvin Klein. How beautiful and chic the OG Calvin Klein was. Like when you would look at Calvin Klein and their brand, like you would want to be fit, you would want to be ripped, you would want to be the gorgeous models that are out there. You would want to be this. You would want to be built like Cindy Crawford. You wanted that waist to be snatched. You wanted to be able to wear low-rise jeans. Girls these days their biggest fear are some low-rise jeans. Okay, let's be honest. No shade. And no shade. High-waisted looks great too. But that being said, people wanted to be slim and healthy because of what it represented. It was a lifestyle. Like this was hot. Make America hot again. This is what we desperately wanted back. But now look what we have today, or pretty recently, I should say, last couple years. The hell is that? The hell is that? Objectively speaking, what the hell? What the hell Beyonce? What the hell Bron James? What the hell Mariah Carey? What is that? What the hell Aretha Franklin? This is Calvin Klein, this pissed me off so bad. This pissed me off so bad. This is not the beauty standard. And honestly, she's not the worst. She's not the worst. The prior one was worse because that one, the second one, it's like, no, it's not. Yeah, that one's worse because the black girl, she ain't the worst actually. Or maybe just my standards are in the abyss because of ones like this. But the hair is not working. The man has tits. And the thing is, it's like, that's such a convincing tranny that like, I don't know if you were just a literal, I don't know which side you're transitioning from. I guess that's the goal. I guarantee that's a they, them. Because it's like, why does Drake have tits? It looks like Drake and Lizzo at the same time. And then that butch mullet, like, come on now. That's not what I want to wear. That's not what I want to look like. Okay, Gen Z is over it. This was appeasing millennials and millennials only. No shade. No shade. I need to dedicate an entire video to why Gen Z does not want to be like millennials, because that is just crazy. Okay, especially living as someone living in LA, I wish that LA was hot and vintage like it used to be. When I look at the videos of back in the day and just like how cool LA culture used to be and California culture used to be. I think we have some content of that too, right? Just to give it the aesthetic. I miss the California aesthetic. Do we have that, Mr. Rodriguez? Yes, just like, come on now. This is so hot. Like, and these just happen to be all white folk. And I don't mean only white folk before y'all try to come for me. But imagine me living, just thriving in that skinny Caucasian glory. I'm kidding. Only to an extent. But, make LA blonde and hot again. Where is that? That was the LA I wanted to live in. This is such a vibe. This is such a vibe that should be the standard of California, where the weather is perfect, where people were deep in their bag, people were attractive, go and sit on the beach. Like nobody just goes and hangs on the beach these days. Like the beaches are even ghetto now. It's because you include too many people. Gen Z is over inclusivity. Stop including homeless people on the beach. Okay? You can take the sidewalk, you can take the alley, you can take the bridge, you can take the tunnel. Why is your encampment on the beach? You don't have to live on the beach. Okay? Inclusivity is over. It's over. Everybody's over it. We want traditional beauty and healthy standards to come back. And with Gen Z, there's the popularity of fitness influencers just shows again just how people are really romanticizing that aesthetic again, being fit, being healthy, feeling good, really just feeling good. People are tired of not feeling well and living these unhealthy lifestyles. So having that self-respect to choose to be healthy and to work hard, it's not about being superficial. It's about actually, taking care of yourself and having that priority of dignity, really. Okay. And while social media and influencer culture often does perpetuate a false reality, at the same time, it at least makes people less lazy. More often than not, I would at least hope. When you see these people thriving, when you see these people just having unattainable standards of, the thing is that's also a thing that's changed too, as I'm sitting here thinking about it. I feel like millennials, when they looked at influencers, they really romanticized things that were unattainable. They really liked to look at people like the Kardashians and Paris Hilton as these people who lived lifestyles that were so far-fetched that all you could do is just sit back and watch out of entertainment and dream that you could be like that. But Gen Z, when we look at influencers, it's very different. And it's part of why TikTok culture has exploded in the way that it has. TikTok culture has exploded because regular people have been able to become stars, and it has made their relatability and this pseudo relationship that people have with influencers. It makes people look at it and be like, oh wait, I can have that too. I can do that too. I want to know where you bought that. And that's why marketing has shifted to be so influencer heavy, because it's like, okay, if this influencer bought this and wears this and goes to these places, they're able to live this life. So now I can too. So that's one of the positive elements of Gen Z influencer culture, is because it's about relatability and attainability. People are able to do what you do now. And yes, again, there is a lot of false reality there. This is a hot take for sure, but I do think that there is an element of positivity in the influencer culture and the way that it's made people want and seek and fight hard to have these different things that these different celebrities and online figures have. Okay, it has brought back a certain level of objectivity in the beauty and the health and the wellness spaces, and we are no longer forced to pretend that that's not the case. Because one thing I always say is that when beauty is represented by nothing, then nothing is beautiful. Okay, when you try to be so inclusive to everything and try to make it seem like everything is on par with everything else, it's like there's no standard of excellence then. Okay, what are we supposed to aspire to have and to obtain if everything is trash? If we're going to be so honest about it. And now we're able to finally speak on it and be able to be vocal about it, which is the fifth thing that I want to talk about. Is Gen Z finally is able to say what we really feel. There's such a level of frustration that comes from cancel culture, which again is one of those things that got attributed to Gen Z, but really I feel like it came from millennial culture. A lot of these toxic things that Gen Z gets blamed for started with millennials. No shade, Mr. Rodriguez. But Gen Z grew up in this era where expressing controversial opinions could lead to being just completely socially or professionally ostracized. And as we're seeing that slowly be chipped away, it still is a thing now where there's a consequence for having common sense. There's a consequence for asking questions. When you ask questions about, is BLM actually legitimate? Where's that money actually going? Do we really have to sit here and pretend like there's multiple genders? All these different things. People are tired of it. People want to be able to at least ask questions and say what they really feel. We have freedom of speech for a reason. Okay. And part of why the 2024 election cycle was so largely swayed was because Trump was so over the top real. It's like, yeah, Trump can be a little bit of an a-hole sometimes. He's a bit blunt, but at least would you rather have that or have Kim Jong-un or Kamala Jong-un, as I often say it, come and lie to our faces every single day? And that's the stance of me, Xaviaer DuRousseau, personally, not PragerU, because PragerU is a 501c3 nonprofit. But that being said, Gen Z, the reason Gen Z men shifted so much towards the right is because we wanted real authenticity. The thing about Trump, he might say something that hurts your feelings, but at least you know that he actually meant it. You get all these lovey-dovey, fuzzy feelings from people on the left because the left is all about joy and trans joy. And look how joyous this all is. But how happy does that joy make you when you go to buy eggs? How joyous did you feel when you couldn't speak out about the fact that you're uncomfortable with men and women's spaces? You have Lily Tino, the trans influencer, that I just finally, for the first time, actually did a full deep dive on Lily Tino just to see the insanity, because I actually always avoided Lily Tino. But one of Lily's current scandals is that they were in the bathroom taking all these videos and selfies with biological women in the background who are clearly uncomfortable. Like, what are you doing? And for far too long, Gen Z was expected to not say anything about it, and that we were told that we had to be in the corner and just be hush hush about it. It's like, oh, hell no. We're saying what we really feel about it. If I were a woman and I saw this going down, I would pepper spray Lily, honestly. And I'm not calling for violence, but it's like, what are you doing? Why are you a biological male in the bathroom, taking all these videos of women and then having the audacity to be mad at women for having the audacity to say something to you. Be so for real. And Gen Z is really happy that we're pushing back on censorship and at least able to have these conversations publicly. I talk about this all the time. One of the things that shocked me so much when I moved to LA in 2023 is so many influencers from like mainstream spaces came up to me saying that they respected what I did because I was saying all the things that they weren't allowed to say because they would lose their brand deals, they would lose their partnerships, they would lose all of it. All the dinner table conversations showed themselves at the polls. And this year, Politico actually made an article noting how Gen Z's pushback against censorship, particularly, was really driven by the distrust in algorithms and the platforms that were suppressing dissenting views. People got tired of the echo chamber, and it's one of the ways that the left really lost their stronghold on culture is because they put in so much effort to suppress the right and to shadow ban the right, and now not allow us in the discussion. It made people that much more intrigued to see what it was that people like Ben Shapiro, Isabel Brown, Brandon Tatum, all these different commentators that had been doing this prior to 2020, it had so many of them desperately seeking to be like, okay, why are these people so shadow banned? PragerU. And that's part of why PragerU blew up so much, because people were wondering, what is it that is causing YouTube to lose their minds about? It can't be that hateful. If it was that hateful, then people wouldn't support it. We live in a time where if there's anything that majority of people will get behind is they can't stand someone that is legitimately racist. So when people would try to call PragerU racist, it's like, okay, why do millions of people support PragerU while simultaneously we live in a culture where people despise racism and bullying and bigotry? Oh, maybe it's because it's not actually racist. It's just talking about objective truth. That is why Gen Z is so desperately seeking to be able to speak about what it is that we actually feel. And it's why people like myself got to start making commentary in 2021. And after being suppressed by TikTok, my TikTok was stuck at 15 to 17,000 followers. I got that in my first 2 months of making content. I was stuck there for 2 years because of suppression. And then suddenly, boom, they started lessening the censorship, and all of a sudden I shoot up hundreds of thousands of followers. That is what happens when you allow people to actually seek out the ideas that they relate to, rather than constantly telling Gen Z that we're not allowed to be a part of the conversation. And I actually saw this video from really one of my favorite pop culture YouTubers. His name is Honest, and he made a video just a couple of days ago about why everyone is going red. And I watched it and I looked in the comment section, and it was just talking about, and I skimmed through it because basically he was talking about the impact it had on certain people's followers. But in the comment section, it was so ironic and funny to me that people were like, oh, it's so profitable to be a grifter. Everybody's grifting. The MAGA grift. It's so like everybody's just going over there because they want clout and because they're losing relevance. Please. First of all, majority of these rappers, a lot of these influencers and models and celebrities, they are so conservative behind the scenes, and it makes sense because the reason they're as successful as they are is because they had conservative views and values, which inherently means hard work. Progressives do not work hard. More often than not, it is not a progressive value to work hard, because progressives love a handout and want socialism and want everything to be equitable, which is just the antithesis of success. Okay, so it makes sense that these people who have reached the pinnacle of their careers, that they lean conservative. And no, like, yeah, you can make a living being a right-wing commentator or being in right-wing spaces, but trust me, the sources trust me, bro. I have talked to plenty of left-wing commentators. I am friends with some of the left-wing influencers behind the scenes, and it is not apples to apples. It is apples to diamonds. It is still so much more profitable to this day to be on the left, because you still get canceled. You still have brands that won't work with you. I have all the time where a brand will reach out to me because there's someone that sees the value in working with, people in the right-wing space, because there's such a demand for it now. But then there's always the one person in the board or in the group chat of who makes the ultimate decisions. They're like, no, we can't work with this person because we'll get canceled. So no, it's not a grift to be over on the right. If anything, my life would be so much easier if I went over to the left and if I started eating those BLM nachos all over again. Be so for real. Okay? people behind the scenes are conservative, and we want to be able to talk about the way that we actually feel, especially in Gen Z, because we constantly get blamed, or just reiterating this, Gen Z really gets blamed for problems that prior generations caused, but then we're not expected to speak out about it. How can you tell us that we're the culprit of all these different issues that are happening in our society, but then when we try to chime in about why we have the problems that we do, because you have people worshiping big backetry, you have people worshiping hood rattery, you have people worshiping George Floyd Palooza, you have people worshiping gender ideology, you have people worshiping all of that. But the second that someone tries to step in and be like, hey, maybe we don't actually support that anymore, or we shouldn't support that as a collective community, then all of a sudden, we're the bad guys, we're the ones getting kicked out of the conversation. Please, pick a struggle. Pick a struggle, and Gen Z is over it. We're saying what we have to say these days. We don't want to be miserable like prior generations, and we are doing what we have to do and doing what needs to be done. And the first thing that is required is to address it out loud. And that's all I have to say about that.
Coming in real quick, we have, before you end, we have one super chat, but I have some information here that I think is going to be very interesting for you of why we were having the issues. Google right now is going through some issues, massive Google Cloud outage, which is pretty interesting. As you can see here, massive Google Cloud outage, messed up Google Home, servers. We're having some issues right now. So,
Mr. Rodriguez basically is saying, don't y'all come over here try to say that it's our team that's messing up. That's Google, chat. YouTube's bills need to be affected. YouTube probably needs to get rid of their DEI standards, and maybe they would be able to maintain a cloud, because how is it 2025 and you can't keep the server up, chat? It's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Get it together.
On top of that, we have, let me get out of this view. On top of that, we have a super chat for $10. I'll go ahead and flip this to you. This was very nice from AH, has been a previous person who's given a super chat before, which is very nice.
Thank you, Super AH. Hi, Xavier. What history books would you recommend to Gen Z for balanced perspective? The Bible. Honestly, and you think I'm kidding, but I'm actually dead serious. I want to do an entire episode where I talk about the importance. If you want to get into the real history that y'all need to understand, read the Bible. Read the Bible, because it will spin the block for you on so many different things. It will make so many different things make sense for you when it comes to what we see in our society today. But, in general, outside of that, there's so many. It depends on what it is that you really want to learn more about. A book that I finished reading recently was Blood Money, and it talks a lot about more recent history, because I'm actually, outside of like reading about the Bible and like some stuff that has to do with Israel, one of the things that I have prioritized, because being honest with you, I wasn't the biggest fan of learning about history until I became a conservative. History was not my favorite class growing up by any means, because it bored me, but now I understand the importance of it much more. But as I've been learning and reading more, I've been reading more about relatively more recent history more than anything, because I feel like understanding what's been happening in the last 10 years while I was super woke has been super helpful for me. So the book I just finished reading recently about history was Blood Money, and it taught me a lot about just what we've been seeing from China, our issues that we have with China. Mr. Rodriguez, I see you pulling up the photo. You ain't got to do that because they didn't pay me to promote this. This is not an ad. But Blood Money by Peter Schweitzer. It talks about just how China, we've been in this silent war with China, whether it's the fentanyl crisis, the BLM bots, with COVID, with all of that. You got to tap into what's happening recently in order to fight these more recent issues. So I would say that that's one that I would recommend for sure, just off of the top of my head. But thank you for sending in that super chat. Start with the Bible though, chat. Always, always, always start with the Bible. And that's all I got to say about that. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Respectfully. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Sorry for the technical difficulties on behalf of YouTube and Google messing with my bag and messing with our conversation. But I will see you guys on Tuesday.